Met at Baltimore School of the Arts. It was the first day, and he came over to me and introduced himself. And in high school, Pac was a little funny.
She had worked with the Hughes brothers. She really liked them. She had a good relationship with Tupac, and she just didn't want to get in the middle of it. And she thought, like, if she had done that movie, it would have been a little weird.
What's happening, babe?
And in that bathroom, but, you know, could have happened. But you're in the bathroom with this man taking a bath. So I don't.
What if the most iconic friendship in hip-hop history wasn't exactly what it seemed? For years, Jada Pinkett Smith has insisted that her bond with Tupac Shakur was strictly platonic. Deep, yes, but never romantic. And yet, a single interview from Larenz Tate just cracked that narrative wide open. Sitting down for what seemed like a casual conversation, Tate dropped a cryptic but unmistakable bomb. A tape might exist, one not tied to any movie shoot, that shows something way more intimate between Jada and Tupac.
Pretty sure that kind of fucked him up when he showed up at the set and he wanted to get down with him. Like, nigga, we finna go up here and fuck up some shit. It ain't finna be no talking, ain't finna be no, explaining. Tupac, like, we finna pull straight up there because he probably knew they're not gonna do anything. So let's just go up in there and start.
He didn't say exactly what's on it. He didn't have to. Just the way he said it, the way he let that silence hang in the air, was enough to send fans spiraling into theories. Why now? Why Tate? And most of all, why would Jada lie?
Men, we matched. The energy was there. I looked at Alan looked at me, we looked at each other and said, that's the girl. So the Tupac thing, that was, I don't think that was, maybe that was one of the things that she felt, or I know what me and Alan talked about and what we saw when we seen that energy. The same as when Larenz came in, like we just knew the chemistry.
When Larenz Tate brought up the alleged tape, he didn't name names outright. He didn't drop any explicit details, but his tone, it said everything. While reflecting on his time around the set of Menace 2 Society, Tate casually mentioned that there were things going on off camera. Things that didn't involve scripts or rehearsals. Then he said the words that blew the lid off a decades-old rumor. I'm just saying, there's a tape out there. It wasn't a movie scene, it wasn't a deleted clip, it was something personal, private, and potentially explosive. And just like that, the internet went wild. The idea that Jada and Tupac had a secret moment, captured somehow, somewhere, goes against everything Jada said for years. According to her, she and Tupac had no physical connection. She's even called a kiss between them disgusting. But Larenz didn't seem convinced, and neither did the people listening. If a tape really does exist, it could rewrite the entire story we've been told. But before we get to that, we have to rewind to where the tension first began. Back in the early 90s, Tupac was originally cast in Menace 2 Society, but it didn't take long for things to spiral. According to Larenz Tate, Tupac clashed hard with the film's directors, the Hughes brothers, over creative differences. Things got so heated that Tupac was fired from the film altogether, a decision that didn't sit well with him. Not long after, he ran into one of the Hughes brothers and physically attacked him. The result? Assault charges, court dates, and even jail time.
Talking about that experience, I said, well, Jada, I talked to the Hughes brothers and you were supposed to be in the movie. And she says, I was. I said, why didn't you do the movie? That they kept saying they had the character Delilah, who was the sister of Juanita, okay, you was gonna be this revolutionary thing. And she was like, I just couldn't do it because at the time I was really close with Tupac, and Tupac had this sort of beef at the time with the Hughes.
It was like, Tupac, why are you acting like a bitch? You're acting like a bitch right now. You acting like a straight bitch. Let's step outside. This is what I hear.
They fired me, but did it in a roundabout punk snitch way. So I caught them on the streets and beat they behinds. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
like I was a to the Hughes brothers, and it ain't over. I still got more than Don't jump to the TV.
But here's where it gets even more complicated. Around the same time, Jada Pinkett was offered a role in Dead Presidents, another film by the Hughes brothers. She turned it down. Officially, it was a creative decision. Unofficially, many now believe she rejected the role out of loyalty to Tupac, A quiet protest, a stand for someone she clearly felt deeply connected to. Most people don't skip major movie roles unless there's a serious reason. And in Jada's case, that reason looked a lot like Tupac. It wasn't just friendship, it was personal. And that depth of loyalty, it made people start to ask questions, especially when more stories started surfacing from people who were there. Years after Tupac's death, a former assistant of Jada Pinkett came forward with a story that, until recently, flew under the radar. In an interview with gossip vlogger Tasha K, the assistant claimed she once walked in on Jada and Tupac in a bathroom during their Menace to Society era. According to her, Jada came out looking flustered, clearly shaken, and trying to act like nothing had happened.
Isn't anything that she hasn't lied about, even the nature of her relationship with Tupac. Like, she claims they weren't ever sexual, and I think she did that in order to make Will feel better. I think, in my opinion, Jada would lie to anyone in order to save what she feels is their feeling.
When Jada moved in with me, we were on Hughes in Culver City. And I remember coming home, she ran out of the bathroom and she's like, Tupac's in the Tupac's here, he's taking a bath. And, you know, she came out with deer headlights. So I don't know. I'm just saying I wasn't in that bathroom, but...
The assistant didn't catch the full moment, but the energy in the room said more than words could. Jada allegedly tried to explain it away, but the assistant wasn't buying it. She now believes Jada lied, not just to her, but to the world.
Me, and it's the most disgusting kiss between us both. I mean, he pulled back just like, and I pulled back, and I was like, see, dummy, you know, and from there it was just like, and then there was one more time he kissed me, and it was just like, and I talk about that in jail when I go to see him in Dannemora. That's a whole nother thing. And once again, it's just like, dude, doesn't work.
The assistant suggested that Jada was terrified of how this would look publicly, especially later on, once she married Will Smith. From the outside, Jada was building a clean Hollywood image. But behind the scenes, there may have been secrets she worked hard to bury. And if even half of what that assistant described is true, it adds a whole new layer to her relationship with Tupac, one that didn't stop at emotional closeness.
Of it is that I forgot the girl that came in and she played in the house party, the black girl from House Party. I forgot. And she was in Baby Boy as Tyree's mom. She came. I hate when I wish somebody get a Wikipedia or something and look that up real fast who that name is.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah. I mean, it's no problem.
Because I don't want to disrespect her because I think she's a brilliant actress.
And you said what movie was she in?
She was in Baby Boy.
Baby Boy. Oh, you talking about AJ Johnson?
AJ Johnson.
Yeah, okay.
AJ Johnson came in to play my girlfriend.
As if the rumors and insider claims weren't enough, another unexpected piece of the puzzle surfaced, this time from Jada's own daughter, Willow Smith. A letter emerged that Willow allegedly wrote to Tupac, years after his death. In it, she wrote something that left fans stunned. Please come back so mommy and me can be happy. That one line was enough to set the internet on fire. Why would a child, who was born after Tupac died, write something like that? The only logical conclusion is that Jada must have spoken to Willow about Tupac in deeply emotional, maybe even romantic terms, enough to make her daughter believe that Tupac was the missing piece in their lives. It made people wonder, how often did Jada talk about Tupac at home? And what kind of picture did she paint? Some called it emotional infidelity, others saw it as unresolved grief. But either way, it blurred the lines between friendship, fantasy, and something more. And it wasn't just Willow who seemed to pick up on that emotional intensity. Tupac himself left behind words that told their own story.
You know, understanding that Pac and I had a hard time understanding why it just we didn't have it. And I talk about it in the book. You know, that being on the back porch of my house and we're like having this discussion. I'm like, okay, Pac, just kiss me.
Tupac wasn't subtle when it came to Jada. In his poetry book, The Rose That Grew From Concrete, he dedicated a piece to her, simply titled Jada. But what he wrote was anything but simple. One line stood out more than the rest. You bring me to climax without sex. It was raw, honest, and impossible to explain away as just friendship. This wasn't some vague tribute to a platonic bond. It was full of emotional heat, passion, and intensity. Tupac described her as the omega of his heart, a phrase that doesn't exactly scream just friends. For someone who supposedly had no romantic chemistry with Jada, Tupac seemed completely consumed by her presence. And while Jada has tried to downplay it over the years, calling their kiss disgusting and denying anything romantic, Tupac's words say otherwise. They tell a story of longing, of deep connection, and of feelings that never fully faded. It made fans wonder if Jada's version of the story is the edited one, and if Tupac was speaking a truth she's worked hard to soften. For years, Jada's rise in Hollywood has been seen as her own hustle. But Larenz Tate threw a wrench in that narrative too. In the same interview where he hinted at the mysterious tape, he also claimed that Tupac had pushed Jada to accept the role of Ronnie in Menace 2 Society. According to Tate, Tupac encouraged her to take the part, believing it would be a strong move for her career. And he wasn't wrong. The role ended up being one of her first big breaks. But not everyone agrees with that version of events. Actor Tyron Turner, who played the film's lead, said Jada got the role through regular channels. She auditioned like everyone else, and there was no hookup from Tupac. So who's telling the truth? Either Jada earned it fair and square, or Tupac's influence reached further than she's ever admitted. What's clear is that even decades later, people close to the situation still can't agree on what really happened. Which brings us to the bigger question: why all the contradictions? When you step back and look at the full picture, a pattern starts to emerge. Every time the story about Jada and Tupac edges too close to something personal, something romantic or intimate, there's a sharp redirect. She's repeatedly insisted they were just friends, that there was no attraction, no chemistry. But then Larenz Tate hints at a tape. Her assistant describes a compromising moment in a bathroom. Tupac writes poetry that reads like a love letter. Her own daughter pens a plea to a dead man, hoping he'll return to make her mother happy. None of these are isolated moments. They paint a picture of a connection far more layered than Jada has let on. And the more she tries to reinforce her version of events, the more people start to wonder if she's carefully managing a narrative. Not just to protect herself, but to preserve a public image, especially during her high-profile marriage to Will Smith. Jada's story has always been clean, polished, controlled. But the stories around her are messy, emotional, and raw. That disconnect, it's what keeps people talking. And with every new revelation, the gap between her public claims and private reality gets harder to ignore. If you made it this far, you already know this story is deeper than it looks. But what do you think? Is the truth still being hidden, or are we finally seeing it for what it is? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is far from over. And if you want more untold stories, behind-the-scenes truths, and the real drama Hollywood tries to bury, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next.